Okay, this video is going to be a little bit Marmite or Vegemite if you're in Australia. And not everybody's going to agree. I expect plenty of disagreement, and you're welcome to do so in the comments below, of course. It's going to be no surprise to anybody that I want David Moyes to get a new contract. It's not really what this is about. This is more about why I think we're lucky to have him, the qualities and attributes that he's got, and actually why I think he's better than a lot of managers that have gone before him. I didn't get involved in the video the other day where Gio and the boys did a fantastic Deal or No Deal video as well, which is why everybody gave their individual opinion of why David Moyes should get a new contract. And actually, the reason for doing this video is not only because I didn't do that one, but Daniel has sent me in a video, which I want to thank you for that, Daniel. It ain't easy popping a camera up, filming yourself, particularly your first ever video, so I appreciate that. And that's going to be just after I've finished waffling and giving my 2p worth. So cheers for that, matey. But he's talking about David Moyes and his new contract and detailing some very, very interesting points. I think we're lucky to have him. And being lucky to have him is different to the attributes and what he brings to manager. And I'll tell you why I think we're lucky to have him. We're lucky to have him because I wouldn't have expected him to come back the second time. I would have expected the majority of people, myself included, to have stuck two fingers up after the way he'd been treated the first time. Now, put aside whether you think he should have kept us up, he could have kept us up, whether you thought there was a better manager at the time to replace David Moyes. Just put this is my point, put yourself in David Moyes' position. He comes in, he's given a 2 million bonus to keep us up and survival. And I would imagine, I think it's fair to assume that David Sullivan would have said to him, you keep us up, mate, you've got the job, the gig's yours. Well, David Moyes did exactly that. We finished in 13th. And then he gets the boot. So regardless of what we all think individually of how he did, he would have felt poorly treated. And that's why I think we're lucky to have him. I think we were lucky that it was a set of circumstances that conspired to make Carlo Ancelotti available when David Moyes was going to get the Everton job, but that's pretty clear now. I think Mashiri, or whatever his name is, has confirmed as much. Ancelotti became available, so we're lucky that the planets aligned for us in that sense. I think we're also lucky as well that Moyes was able to swallow his pride and say, okay, look, I will work with this guy again, even though he treated me badly. Majority of people would have been bitter, stuck two fingers up, particularly if you didn't need the money. But I think he saw it as an opportunity to rebuild his career. He saw it as an opportunity for unfinished business. But I think we were fortunate that it worked out for us there. It was funny how Sullivan got rid of him the first time, but I understand why it happened. Because I think whilst he probably would have liked to have stuck to his word and kept David Moyes in there, I think he got itchy feet. I think us as fans were moaning about the style of football, and he wanted to get someone else in. Now, actually, I think he got the wrong person. I said so at the time with Pellegrini, but he decided to go a different direction. But I think you've got to put the context of Moyes keeping the job the first time when he kept us up, and then the second time when he kept us up, because actually they were two very different periods or feelings as a West Ham fan. So I'll take you back to the first time. We had a roller coaster of a journey with Slaven Bilic. Slaven Bilic had given us the best team we'd had in quite a long time. I thought certainly the most exciting to watch in many a year. That last season at Upton Park was special for so many reasons, but it was nostalgic, it was emotional, and we had a team fitting of the final year at our stadium. It's easy to remember Dimitri Payet and his free kicks and his solo goals, and they were numerous and incredibly enjoyable to watch. But Memo Lanzini had also come onto the scene, and he was in fantastic form. Michail Antonio again was having an impressive start to his West Ham career. And we had some pretty damn good players. Mark Noble was in great form as well. So there was a lot going. So we were used to scoring goals, and as we often talk about, if we were ever behind in games, he would just chuck on another striker. And that's the football we'd sort of become accustomed to. It became evident that it wasn't going to work out for Slaven Bilic. I think because we've been used to that style of football, once we saw David Moyes' teams having sort of 23% possessions, there were a couple of games we had one shot in the whole game. You can understand why as fans we were looking at it and thinking, no, this ain't for us. This is not our cup of tea. But I think that's very different from the second time, because I think the mindset and the feeling amongst fans the second time he keeps up is very, very different. Because by the second time, we've already been soured by the whole London Stadium experience. We've been soured by how it went with Manuel Pellegrini. The first time we were used to almost having world class players, because that's what Payet was. By the time he came in the second time, we were in the doldrums. We'd already had, protests and everyone was unhappy. And he came in, and I think now we're more willing to accept the football under David Moyes than we were the first time. I think it's also worth pointing out that football's got a lot better. We now do attack. We don't just have one shot a game. We have numerous shots a game, and now we can look at it and think, well, actually, you know what? Actually, when we play defensive, the tactics are working. We keep a clean sheet. We don't concede goals. When we go on the attack, we do score goals. And I think he's constructed a really good backroom team around him. Also, I think you've got to put into the context that by the time David Moyes came in the second time, we were all aware that the club was a farce by that point. We weren't sure. Remember, got to think the first time he came in, the words of Mark Noble are still ringing in our ears. The club ain't a circus anymore. The second time David Moyes comes in, we're all aware the club's a circus. There's no scouts. They're applying for someone to do a volunteer scouts job and stuff like this. We all know the cupboard is bare in terms of everything at West Ham by that point. So he came in. Now, it's pointless me going over what he's done, because I've said it numerous times about his record since lockdown, and you can reel off the wins and the draws and the losses as easy as I can. And here's my point. I think he's the best manager we've had since Harry Redknapp. And that's the bit I expect to be a little bit controversial. But I do mean it. And I've got to be honest, I almost went a step further, and I also almost went since John Lyall. But Harry Redknapp gave us a really, really high league finish, and he had at times a swashbuckling team, and it all fell down around him for reasons. Everyone's got their own reasons why Harry Redknapp's team broke down. Of course, the most common one is the fact that the team was sold from under him and stuff like that. But yeah, look, there's some other tales that surround that, perhaps for a different time. However, if we look at the list of managers since John Lyall, Lou Macari, well, he was an absolute disaster. Billy Bonds, we'd have loved Gonzo to have turned out and it worked out, but it didn't really. And I think it's quite telling that he never went on and ploughed a successful career in management. He didn't really fancy it. I mean, in many respects, who could have been our best manager was possibly Trevor Brooking, but he didn't really fancy it. Harry Redknapp took over from Billy Bonds, and that was messy. That was messy because they were mates before and they weren't mates afterwards. I think maybe we'll just sort of leave it at that. But Harry Redknapp, I think, was an excellent manager for West Ham up until the point where it went sour. But you can say that for any manager. Up to the point where it goes sour, it's great. Actually, maybe not. Frank Grant wasn't great up to the point it went sour. He was crap and then he went sour. Glenn Roeder, after that. I mean, Glenn Roeder wasn't cut out for the job. And I don't want to be nasty about Glenn Roeder. And to be fair, he never sat comfortably when people did, because I remember Glenn Roeder. Glenn Roeder had 2 young daughters. And I remember when Glenn Roeder got diagnosed with a brain tumour, and it was really likely he was going to die if he didn't have emergency surgery. And I remember 2 little girls thinking they were going to lose their dad. So I was never a fan of the old moniker of tumour boy and stuff like that. I hated it, actually. And so, I just always looked at him as a family man that fell ill. Unfortunately, he was terrible. He was a terrible West Ham manager, and he did take us down, really, because Trevor Brooking couldn't quite rescue us. But it was a wonderful effort from Sir Trev, certainly, and I would have liked to have seen him stay on, but he didn't fancy it, and you understand that. So all these people that I've mentioned, I think Moyes is better than all of them. Of course, afterwards, came Alan Pardew, didn't it? Now, this is the one I think might be a little bit controversial, because you're probably thinking, hold on, are you saying David Moyes is a better manager than Alan Pardew? Yeah, I think he is. I think he's got to do a bit more at West Ham, but I do. The first season when we were promoted under Pardew was absolutely fantastic. Second season, good. But, again, it went sour. And I don't really want to go into why it went sour. A lot of you will know. A lot of people think, hold on, what did actually happen? And it's certainly not something I'd ever be comfortable talking about on a video. Anyway, that's for bloody sure. But he was a good manager. He was a good manager, Pardew. But I just feel if Moyes, and this is the point, gets a new contract, in another 2 or 3 seasons, I think he will eclipse what Roeder's done. But we'll get into the cup stuff on another video, but I touched on it with Luke. Alan Kirbishley. I do. I think Alan Kirbishley was... I feel a bit sorry for Curbs, actually, because I think there's probably a lot of similarities between him and David Moyes, but I thought he came in at a bad time. He probably felt like it was a good time, because we had we looked like we were awash with money, but bringing in players like Lundberg and Dyer, I think Solano worked out, but there were a lot of... It's like Alan Pardew got money for the first time in his life, and it was completely wasted, really. He ends up... did he end up walking out of the club? I think he did, because we sold George McCartney, did we, or something like that? I think that was what happened. And then he just sort of disappeared from the game, Kirbishley. So I think that was a bit of a shame for him, really. But I certainly think David Moyes, better manager than Alan Kirbishley. Gianfranco Zola, I was a bit disappointed there, because I actually held quite a lot of promise between with Steve Clarke as his assistant. I thought that was something that's going to work, and I thought, Zola, this is something that's going to work for us. It's going to be a happy partnership, and I thought it was a bit of a shame. Of course, he was manager at the point where Gold and Sullivan came and turned up, and Brady, and I think he was fired pretty unceremoniously, wasn't he? That was not a particularly great point, particularly as he didn't take us down. He kept us up. But anyway, my point is not individually assess these managers. I think David Moyes is better manager than Gianfranco Zola. Then comes Avram Grant, who's another one who was sacked pretty unceremoniously. I think that's a sorry ass tale, by the way, of him being... I think Karen Brady asked Dave Whelan, who was the manager of Wigan, for a private room, not like that, for a private room so she could go and sack Avram Grant. It took Avram Grant a room, sacked him, and it told him he wasn't welcome on the coach back. He had to make his way back from Wigan. I think it was Scott Parker who basically went and pleaded with her. And actually, you can imagine Scott Parker probably didn't plead with her. I'd imagine Scott Parker, knowing what Scott's like, would probably turn around and said, "Oi, what you're doing is bang out of order. No decent human being would do that. Can't leave him stranded up here. Have some dignity. Let him take the coach back with the players." Which, anyway, but nonetheless, David Moyes, this isn't controversial, is a better manager than Avram Grant. Someone may say otherwise. Sam Allardyce. Sam Allardyce took us up. Sam Allardyce did a lot of things. But I'll tell you why David Moyes is a better manager than Sam Allardyce. Well, number one, his Everton record is a lot better. He's managed abroad, which I think, but also David Moyes has a lot of respect for West Ham, and that has to count for something. I'll never ever... There's a lot of things. A lot of people don't forgive Sam Allardyce for cutting his ear at the fans. Do you know what? That's totally predictable. That's exactly the sort of thing I expect from Allardyce. I think he's he's completely classless. Do you know what I think he is? I think he's aloof. I think Allardyce thinks he's better than everybody. Right? Particularly thought he was better than the West Ham fans. And he knew what he was doing when it was Bobby Moore, the anniversary of Bobby Moore's death, and he turned around and said he always remembered Bobby Moore more as a Fulham player than a West Ham player. He knew what he was doing. He absolutely knew what he was doing. He also, when he had his first press conference, he told a story about he always enjoyed coming to West Ham because whenever he came to West Ham, he always knew it would be a win. He always came and turned West Ham over. And then actually, I went and looked at his stats, and he'd played for Notts County and all the clubs he played for. He'd only come and beaten West Ham once, and most of the time, whenever he played against West Ham as a player, he'd lost. So that was a load of old rubbish as well. I also think that Sam Allardyce promised a lot. He used to say, "Oh, no team of mine will ever concede 3 goals," and he said a lot of things like that. Well, actually, they did, and we went on some pretty horrendous runs under Sam Allardyce. What Sam Allardyce says on the tin is direct football, a tight defence, win games, and we'll do a Bolton. We'll get you into the top 6. He loves to talk about Bolton, and that's what he'll do at any club. But you know what? He didn't do any of that. I thought his defence was porous and crap, quite frankly. And I say this now, I thought we were lucky to get promoted. I thought we really were. There's no way, with the squad and the money we had to spend, to be able to bring in a player like Kevin Nolan on big money, even though we're a championship team, to even be in the playoffs, as glorious and fantastic as it all was. Not good enough. Not good enough for me. So for me, Moyes is better than Sam Allardyce. Slaven Bilic, look, we spoke about him at the start of the video. I love Slav. We all love Slav. I think Moyes is better. I really do. Look, he got a win. He got a win the other day, didn't he, for West Brom? And I hope West Brom stay up. I do think David Moyes is a better manager. I think at the end of the careers it will prove to be so. And I think at the moment he's a better manager for West Ham. It's no surprise that David Moyes took over at West Ham and he had to sort the fitness out. We weren't fit under Bilic, and then he got us fit. And then of course he took over from Pellegrini, and and he had to get us fit again, so we're unfit. So that's what we're going to wonder. Am I saying David Moyes is a better manager than Manuel Pellegrini? Well, perhaps not. Not over his career. I think it would be naughty to suggest so, and I think I'd be lying to make my point. over Pellegrini's whole career? No, because Pellegrini has won things and David Moyes hasn't won anything yet. And I do think that is really important. I think you should try and win things. But I do think David Moyes is better than the West Ham version of Pellegrini, the Pellegrini that we got, who again, like Allardyce, but different. Pellegrini promised attacking football and passing football and all the rest of it. By the end of it, it was crap. We weren't attacking very much at all. Even his own players like Felipe Anderson, Pellegrini couldn't get a tune out of him at all. So I think that David Moyes is better than the Pellegrini of now. Pellegrini at his peak? No. Is it easy to assess Pellegrini at Man City? Probably not. I think most managers would have taken over from Mancini and done a good job with that particular squad. I think Aguero, particularly if you look at Torre, with some of the players there as well that they had at the time will go down as Premier League legends like Kompany and all the rest of it. I think it's hard to judge him on that, but I think David Moyes is the best manager we have had in a very, very long time, and for that reason, and I've probably said quite a lot of controversial things there, and you can agree or disagree. Please do feel free to do so. For that reason, I think I definitely want him to get a new contract. Not only do I want him to get a new contract, I want to see what he can do. We're in a position now that realistically, we got no right to be in, and I think it's quite miraculous to take a team from. We were all worried. Make no mistake about it. We were worried about relegation last season. We all were. A lot of people. We only got to look at those comments saying, we're going down. There's nothing about us. People were saying, I was saying it. I'm struggling to see 3 worse teams than us in the Premier League. Come the end of it, we weren't even worried about it. To take us from being that bad, where we thought we were possibly the worst team in the Premier League, by the way. Possibly, we were saying maybe Norwich. Only Norwich are worse than us. To take us from that to where we are now, which is no one's worried about it. Nobody is worried about it. We look consistent. We look tight at the back. And you would suggest, unlike the West Ham of old, which is on our day we can beat anyone, actually, even when we're not on our day, we're all right. We're not too bad. And we'll take a bit of that. So there you go. That's what I think. Anyway, I've waffled on for long enough now. 17 minutes. Please do stick around and listen to what Daniel's got to say. It's his first video. Interact with him in the chat. Please do. Well, we've got a match later on today. I will see you later on today at 6:50 for the build-up show with Gio.
All right, lads. This is about David Moyes' new contract and should he get a new one. I've been on the fence, and I'm going to say yes, and here's why. 1, I don't trust that GSB will ever have another good appointment. They are just completely incompetent, and I don't trust that if we sack David Moyes, there's another manager out there who will do well under them. 2, he has done very well, saving us twice now on a ridiculously low budget. You look at the players he brought in, and he made instant improvements to the team. Bowen, who has arguably not been at his best this season, but when he was here earlier, he was doing great. You've got Bowen, Souček, and Kufal, who have all been doing phenomenal. Come right into the team and done wonderfully. I'm not going to include Benrahma. I don't think he's a David Moyes signing. I don't think he likes him. So, looking at it, I think he should get a new contract. But there are some things I want to say about it. He has failed in a few different ways. His results are fantastic. His game management is terrible. We all know this. We all see this. Every game on the Twitter feed, you see the same thing. Oh, Moyes, make a sub. Moyes, make a sub. Moyes. It's the 85th minute. Oh, there's Haller. Oh, there's Antonio. Oh, there's whoever. He tends to sub ridiculously late. The only reason it's changed, in my opinion, is because of Nolan. I don't know what Nolan's doing, but he's clearly getting in Moyes' ear. When you look at it, though, the issue we have Anderson, Haller, and I wrote another one down. Benrahma and youngsters. He claimed he wanted a young team. We have not seen this yet. He's signed 2 guys who are over 25, which is fine. They're both great improvements. But he has not brought any of the youngsters into the team. He does not seem interested in playing Benrahma, which is a £25 million player. And we, West Ham, can't afford £25 million players on the bench. Anderson, he shipped off and didn't even give him a shout. When last time he was here, he did extremely well with him. I have my own opinions about Anderson, but you look at Diop. Diop is a phenomenal player. He got dropped because of COVID, and although it wasn't right to, it wouldn't be right to drop Balbuena after his great performances. I think Balbuena's performances have slowly been dwindling. I don't think he's as good as he was when he first came into the team to make the impact when Diop was gone. And I truthfully feel Diop and I want to play better together. Haller is a £45 million striker, and you can't deny what he did at Frankfurt. Haller is a phenomenal player, and to me, it's clear he has talent and he is worth all our pennies. We could make this formation fit him, and it's shocking to me that we haven't even considered it. When Antonio comes back, I would fully expect 2 up top and 1 behind. He loves Fornals, as we all do. He's a grafter. Well, not all of us, sorry. I think Haller and Antonio and Fornals in the middle. You start with the front 3, and Fornals drops into the middle, like he already does. You drop Bowen. I don't think Bowen's been good enough this season, and I think Haller has warranted a place to stay in the team, as well as Antonio clearly can't be dropped. So, if I don't see those things, it's going to be hard. But overall, yes, I do think that he should be given a new contract. For how long? 2 years? It depends on how long GSP stay. If Gold, Brady, and Sullivan are out in the next 3, I'd like a new manager in the next 3 years. I think no manager can cope. Very few managers can cope working for those 3. It's an absolute shit show, and they run the football club like a joke. Moyes is the only man who will sit there, take the beating on the chin, and just get it done. Whether we love it, whether it's pretty, whether it's just whatever, he gets it done. So yes, he has warranted a new contract, in my opinion. Thanks, lads.